Yo, yo, yo! I've gone all gangster because I got my baseball cap on. What's going on? It's Grumpy Vegan Grandad. Good evening, everybody. Can we have a thumbs up or something to tell me that you can hear me? You can see me, guys. I'll do the usual. I'll hang around until somebody tells me they can see me and hear me, so that I'm not talking to the wall, which I would be doing if I wasn't talking to you lot. What's going on? I've got one watching at the moment. Why is there only one watching? What's going on? Ah, there we go. We got a thumbs up. Right, excellent, excellent. Now we got 6 watching. It's building up. It's building up. Pink Floyd, The Wall. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall. So let's have a look who's on as they start popping on. Silence is Violence. Go vegan. I love that name. And Garrett's Life. How are you? Muddy Paws. Hey up, lass. How's that doing? Deb Thompson. Always nice to see you. Michael Askew. Regular as clockwork. I can set my watch by you. I bet the atomic clock can set itself by you as well, Michael. You're brilliant. I'm Easy Vegan. Away, brother. All good. Okay, so today we've got the Grumpy Vegan Grandma. Michelle is her name. She's in Australia. Yeah, the land down under. And I came across Michelle because she's very vocal on Instagram. Very, very vocal. She's got strong opinions. And she's got some very, very strong opinions. I'm going to play a little bit of... hello, UK Vegan Fan. I'm going to play a little bit of Michelle's Instagram videos, just to let you have a look at what we're dealing with here, so you can all get yourselves ready. So, let's share the audio. Oh.
Realize how much of a hypocrite you are, because did you not go to school, or is education only for men? Do you not work, or are jobs only for men? Do you not have bank accounts, or is money only for men? Do you not have the right to decide your children's future, or do your kids belong to the men? Don't be a hypocrite. You are benefiting from feminism. To the women.
Oh, talking about feminine. What's that? She's born in raspberry there.
To the white vegans, and it's only the white ones that are coming at me and calling me a speciesist because I'm saying it's wrong to use Holocaust and it's wrong to use slavery in the animal activist movement. If one black person tells me that something that I have said is racist, I'm removing it from my vernacular in case it offends other black people. The same as if one Jewish person tells me that something is anti-Semitic, I am removing it from my vernacular so that I do not harm an oppressed group. If you can't get your head around that, you're actually being speciesist against your own kind.
Well, there you have it. That's Michelle. I told you she had some strong views, and we're going to talk about it all, and we're going to let you all have your views, but I think we should bring her on. Let's just see what you think of Michelle here, and here she is.
Yeah, and
hello, Michelle.
Look, I picked up a straggler.
What the hell? One minute you're alone, and the next minute you've got kids. Is that how it works in Australia?
Yeah, we just click our fingers and grandchildren just pop out of the air.
Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle, well, a.k.a. Grumpy Vegan Grandma, apparently. And I'm in Australia, as you've all heard. And this is my adorable 4.5-year-old grandson who wasn't supposed to be up here but decided to get out of bed early because it's 4 minutes past 7. Normally he's asleep. He can't hear you, of course, because I've got these in.
Right. I'll just
hear me, but he can't hear you. Wave to Grumpy Vegan Grandad. He's just going to sit here going, Why is Grammy talking but no one's talking back to her? But
Yeah,
anyway,
if you think I don't believe that, you talk to yourself anyway. You know
of course
what I mean?
I fucking talk to myself. That's the most intelligent conversation I ever have. What are you talking about?
So tell us a bit more about yourself, Michelle. You're in Australia. Whereabouts?
So I'm in Victoria. I'm
Yep.
just outside of Melbourne, on the Mornington Peninsula, in a place called Frankston. It's right on the beach, which is really, really nice. I've been a professional singer for most of my life. Started acting 18 months ago, and COVID shut that shit down big time. So instead I turned to putting my opinions on Instagram.
I mean, I must
What else
admit,
was I going to do?
I had a bit of last night. I was just sat on the sofa, and Missy says, "What's up with you?" And I said, "The weeks are just melting into one now. I seem to be doing the same thing: go to work, come home, sit in front of the computer all weekend playing games because there's nothing else to do, and then go back to work. And it's like it's getting to me now." I mean, you've got a fair bit of freedom over there, are you? You're not in lockdown now at the moment, are you?
We're not in lockdown now, but in Victoria we were actually out of the whole of Australia. We copped a whole 800 deaths or something. So really nothing in the grand scheme of things. But our premier locked us down like you've got no idea. We were under a 5-kilometre rule, so you couldn't go anywhere outside of 5 kilometres from your house. Otherwise, you risked a $1,600 fine, which has now been increased, I think, to $5,000. I'm not sure. And we still at the moment, if you go into any stores, the shopping centres, etc., you have to mask up still.
So the shops are still open. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just plugging something in that I forgot to plug in earlier.
Yes, yeah. Our shops they weren't open. They reopened. I'm just trying to think when we came out of lockdown. October, November. We sort of came out of lockdown, and the stores slowly.
That's just one lockdown. Lockdown.
Yeah. I mean, they called it the second wave, but I mean, but we were locked down for months. So we in Victoria, I think our lockdown was 4 months, 4.5 months long.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really wanted to get it under control, and I think we had one small outbreak actually when I went to visit my parents. I couldn't get back because where I was, they had one case linked to cases in Sydney. So our Victorian Premier declared where I was a red zone, and the only way that I could come back to Victoria was to get a permit, get COVID tested, and then quarantine for the 2 weeks when I got back. Wow. So, yeah, they take it very seriously, seriously. Not as good as New Zealand, but,
I mean, it's paying dividends now, though, isn't it? I mean, we're God knows how long this one's going to last for. It's supposed to end the middle of Feb, 2 weeks into February. Whether it will or not, I don't know. My missus has been out of work for like 3 months. She's still getting paid half her wages. We can't claim anything, so we've just got to soak up that loss. So it's just garbage, absolute garbage. So anyway, let's move off that now because it's not a very.
Well, we're all living it, aren't we? So we're all
we're all in it. We're not saying anything nobody's not heard before or anything like that. So tell me, how did and why did you turn towards the vegan lifestyle? What triggered that?
It was nearly 9 or 10 years ago. I started to go through menopause, and I started to look at diet to control menopause. And in my studies, I thought, I'm just going to do a diploma in human nutrition. And the more I started to look into nutrition, the more I started to realize that meat and dairy were contributing factors as to, just everything. Basically, almost every condition known to man could be linked back to eating meat and dairy. So I stopped the meat initially. I think just like everybody did the whole vegetarian thing first, gave up the meat. I was never really a big egg eater, so that was no biggie. And I mean, admittedly, I was never really a milk drinker. I have been drinking soy milk for decades and decades, so that was never really a big thing. Obviously, it was the cheese, which of course I learnt in my studies was because of the casmorphins and the opioid effect on the brain. So when we say, oh, we can't give up cheese, it's literally because we're
addicted.
So yeah, and I was talking to my son, who is not a vegan, I might add, and I said to him, I'm not going to eat any meat anymore, because obviously then I started looking at the meat industry, the agricultural industry, and what was happening to the animals, and I was just like, fuck. And my son actually said to me, Mum, if you're going to give up meat because you care about the animals, he said, but you still drink dairy, he goes, you're a fucking hypocrite. And this is a non-vegan, right? This is a non-vegan kid who still to this day drinks milk and eats meat and eats cheese, telling me I was a fucking hypocrite.
Wow.
So he said, you need to look at the dairy industry. So I think I spent an hour looking at the dairy industry, and I was just like, oh, that's it, I'm done. that was it. So yeah,
you can't help it, can you? Just a quick thing. Last week, I don't know whether you're aware of this, Michelle, but in the UK, just down the road from me in Knowsley, near Liverpool, they're trying to reintroduce red squirrels. And the reason red squirrels have disappeared from this country is because we've taken away the habitat, the particular trees that they use. So nothing's going to bring them back unless we start replanting these particular forests. However, some bright spark has got the idea that it's grey squirrels that are causing the problem. So now they're asking for members of the public to set traps in the garden, because you're not allowed to trap them in public land. Trap a squirrel in your own garden, and we will teach you how to get rid of it humanely, which means
fuck off.
Putting them in a bag,
putting
them in a bag and slamming them against the wall. Or hitting them with something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I wonder
So
if I could humanely get rid of all the pedophiles in this world like that.
Yeah. Bryn has started a big campaign, and apparently now in Knowsley the petition is up to 55,000 signatures. So well done, Bryn.
Good on you.
Nice one, mate.
Good on you.
So yeah, that's some positive news that people are signing it. Hang on a minute. He's just saying. Hang on, I'll grab the link. Bryn, you can't post it, mate, unless you're a moderator, mate. So sorry. If you post it me after, I will share it out on a post. So how long ago was that then, Michelle? That you sort of just? You started with health.
Yeah. Basically, it started purely for health reasons. I was trying to alleviate symptoms of menopause. That was pretty much it, symptoms of menopause.
Yeah.
Which suck, by the way. Because, you hear about the hot flushes, but you don't hear about all of the other bits and pieces that go along with it. And one of the worst things is the skin crawls. You feel like there are insects crawling all over your body, and it is fucking horrible. Like, you've got no idea. So that's basically why I started, to try and alleviate these symptoms and try and transition to not being a woman anymore, comfortably. And well, according to J.K. Rowling, you can only call yourself a woman if you bleed. And I bleed anymore, therefore I'm not a woman. Right? I'm relegated off with the trans women. According to her. That's it. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to.
My missus is going through it. She's been going through it for 5 years. And it's like getting in a bed with a hot brick.
Oh, it was bleeding.
Oh, was it, darling? Okay. Can you go see Mummy? Go see Mummy. Good boy. He talks more than I do, and that says a lot. Yeah, it's horrible. It's not an enjoyable experience, and unfortunately, women are told that you can't talk about it, because as soon as you start talking about those kinds of things, especially if there's men around, they run. I mean, it's great if you want to get out of something and there's men around. Like if you're at work and you want to get the day off, just go to your boss and go, feeling very menopausal, and he'll just go, get the fuck out of my face. I don't want to hear it. But we shouldn't be that way, because it is a completely acceptable part of life. Every woman is going to go through it. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, because again, that's trans exclusive. But you know what I mean when I say that every woman who was born a woman is generally going to go through menopause, even if she never ever menstruated in her life. She's still going to have those changes when she reaches that certain point. And it's not something that we should be ashamed of. It's not something that we should hide from. And it's not disgusting. You know, women's functions are not disgusting. Like, it's no different to having a poo or having a wee or
eating
having
an egg.
snot come out of your nose, or, you know.
Or eating an egg.
Ugh. Who eats eggs?
Well, that's what it is. It's a chicken's period, you know. Vegan Pixie Warrior says she's 8 years into her menopause. I've told my missus, I've said to her, please, will you start having soy milk or tofu or something? She went, why? I says, because they phytoestrogens. And phytoestrogens balance your own hormones. It might help you.
Yeah,
no, she's carrying on eating dairy.
I heard that in Japan, they don't even have a word for menopause because they have such a high soy content. You know, they eat a lot of fermented soy.
Really? That's interesting.
They don't have the word menopause in their language because their women generally transition quite easily. Now, this is something I read a long time ago, so for God's sakes, don't quote me. I'm not an expert. I just remember reading it and thinking, oh, wow, that's really, really interesting. And my mum, my stepmom, she's always been, she's asthmatic, so she's never been allowed to have dairy. And she never had any menopausal symptoms whatsoever. None. One day she just stopped bleeding and that was the end of that. She hasn't had the night sweats, the hot flushes, the skin crawls, the mood swing. She had a couple of the mood swings, but not to the extent that a lot of women do.
Silence is violence. Go vegan says, do men get menopause?
I think so. Yeah, it's called a midlife crisis. They go and buy themselves a Ferrari.
Well, some of us go and get a Ferrari, mate. The rest of us get a baseball cap. Most of us get a baseball cap and we start wearing it like that.
Yes.
That's what menopause is.
I do think that men definitely have a form of change because men cycle just as much as women do. This whole concept that men don't have hormones just does my fucking head in because men get testy, for crying out loud. You know, they have you guys have to go on, as Hannah Gadsby would say, you guys have to go and punch walls, right? That's your hormones. You know, testosterone makes people really aggressive and really angry.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Because I used to overdose my body with hormones when I was in my misspent youth. So very naughty just to build a bit of muscle and look like the guys on Instagram. What a dick I was.
At least you can say I was and not I am.
Yeah, exactly. My God, if I told stories about my misspent youth, people would be unsubscribing in the droves, I tell you.
Oh, look, I think I did a reel about that the other day, how glad that I am that I'm 53 and grew up without the internet and grew up without Instagram because I, you know, clearly from what you can see, I can't keep my mouth shut. I'm a very honest, forthright person. And I was bullied as it was for being an immigrant, for being a ginger, for being an only child, from coming from a broken family, all of that shit. If you threw the internet and social media into the mix, I might not be here today.
I'm Easy Vegan says, when does feminism stop and sexism start?
Tell him to put down the fucking fishing rod right now. All right?
So let's move on a little bit. You finally saw the ethical side of it.
Yeah.
And
I think that was about 5 years ago for the ethical side to really hit me. I mean, as I said, I hadn't been having the meat and dairy at that point anyway, but yeah, it's about 5 years ago. It really became, I became one of those vegans where, you know, like, how do you know you're in a room with a vegan? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you. It's like, yeah, that's fucking right, I'll tell you.
Well, too right, and that's what veganism is all about. I mean, it's not about keeping your mouth shut and ignoring it and saying, well, I'm doing my bit. I'm just sat here not contributing towards it, so that's enough. So,
well,
no, I think
the way I look at it, you can't call yourself an activist if you keep your mouth shut. You can't. Because
Well, you can't call yourself a vegan. I don't think you can call yourself a vegan if you keep your mouth shut.
no, because silence is complicit. As that hashtag, what is it? Silence is violence. Go vegan. Like silence is violence. It definitely is. Because if you say nothing, I hate that saying. Bad things happen when good people do nothing. Good people don't ever do nothing, right? So bad things happen because people do nothing.
Yeah.
Because good people have always fought the fort.
I mean, the prime example of that was Jimmy Savile, and everybody kept quiet about him. He was a well-known paedophile. Everybody knew about him, and instead of people speaking up, they shut it up because he was famous and he was raising so much money for charity and ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
They get a free pass when they're famous, or they make money, or they make other people money. So.
Muddy Paw says, vegan Grandad, I think grumpy vegan grandma could kick your ass. Really?
Hey, I'll never get invited back now. Cut that out.
That's sexist. If Michelle hit me, everyone would be fine with it. If I slapped her, I'd be incarcerated and made a pariah.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
This bitch only slaps people with her mouth. All right, I don't use my hands. I don't believe in physical violence.
So let's move forward a little bit then. So we're going along. What sort of activism did you get involved with, Michelle? What did you start doing at first? How did you sort of manifest yourself as a vegan activist? What did you do?
I went along to a couple of the cubes. I went to I think I explained to you. I went to a vigil, a truck vigil, and unfortunately, I'm an empath. So when I say unfortunately, I mean I happen to like the fact that I'm an empath, but it can be really, really draining. And for me, I had to walk away from that because it just became all about my emotions. And when you're doing something like that, it's not supposed to be about you. It's supposed to be about what's actually happening. So I had to remove myself from that. I can't handle hearing anyone, let alone an animal, screaming or terrified or, I remember my ex finding a rat that had eaten rat poison on their farm, and it was half dead. And I burst into tears, and he goes, "That's all right. I'll just get a piece of wood and I'll smack it on the head and, put it out of its misery." I couldn't hang around for that. I had to walk away. It was like, if you've got to do that, you've got to do that. But I cannot watch this. I can't watch an animal lose its life.
I don't. To be honest with you, I don't think many people can. I don't think many people can. And the ones who say that it doesn't bother them, they're probably just putting a face on it, unless you're involved with it, So, yeah, I don't think many people can. I don't think you're unusual. But, again, I understand what you're saying, that if you go to pieces at a vigil, then you're drawing all the attention away from the animals.
That's right.
And that's not good.
Well, it's not helping the cause because – especially if it's a woman, then it just becomes just stupid emotional women, stupid can't get her emotions under control, whereas you find other ways. You find the thing that works for you.
So what was that?
And well, for me, it's just talking to people. For me, it's just writing emails to my federal members, asking them to stop funding meat and dairy, to stop subsidising meat and dairy. You've just got to find what works. I mean, I'll go to marches in the cities and things like that because again, I can deal with that as long as I just stay away from the slaughterhouses and places like it's just I'm not doing any good activism when I'm in those places. So I get that. You pick your poison.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's not many people. I haven't sat through a whole episode of Dominion yet. I've sort of started it, and then I can't watch anymore.
Yeah.
And
I'm hearing
the only time I've seen sort of a bit of everything is when I put videos together that I want to hit hard with people, like the Matrix one. It's just I just wanted to flashes of the stuff, not too much of it. Because but I mean, some people need that, and we'll go on to that in a little bit about using the words. We'll have that conversation as well. But, so you're 53, Michelle.
I am.
And you look amazing. I'll give you that. You look amazing. You're not overweight. You're not waddling around. You look fit, healthy. Your skin's glowing. You look great. I mean, all right, the Australian climate might help a little bit with your complexion there. You don't look like a Frosty the Snowman like me. But
This summer, so that kind of helps. You got to remember that we are in the middle of summer at the moment, but Victoria is a lot like England. It's quite cold. So even in the middle of summer, we can have 42 degrees one day and it'll be 16 degrees the next day. So, but yeah, I honestly, it's not the climate. I know it's 100% my diet. I know that because I've never been physically stronger. I mean, I'm metal from the middle of my back to my tailbone. I've got nuts and bolts and cages holding my spine together. I'm in pain 24 hours a day, but ever since I went vegan, that pain has lessened, because I don't have the inflammation in my body that I used to have, which makes a huge difference. And I'm allergic to anti-inflammatories. So I can't take things like ibuprofens or naproxens or anything like that. I can't take any of that stuff. So having a diet that obviously helps to reduce the inflammation makes a huge difference. I've got muscle definition. I don't work out. Like I try to. The last 5 minutes, but and I pretty much travel at the same size. I'm an Australian between a 6 and an 8, depending on the clothing brand, which is an extra small in Australia. And again, because with menopause, I'd started to just blow up like a balloon. And that was probably the main reason, because as women, it's unfortunately, and it's a subject I don't even like talking about, because it is a trigger for a lot of women to talk about weight. I'm one of them. I have body dysmorphia because I've always been this tiny little thing. I've been told all my life, oh, you're so skinny, you're so skinny, you're so skinny, that it became my defining thing. Like if I had put on weight, I wasn't that skinny little thing anymore, and it affected me mentally. And a lot of that is because of the previous abuse, the trauma of the rape, which we talked about earlier. But that body dysmorphia comes from this is just a shell, right? It's just a shell, and we put too much store on the outside when we should be focusing on the inside. I mean, 1 in every 10 cells in our body is human. Only 1 in every 10. I mean, basically, we're a coral system. The other 9 cells are foreign cells, bacterias, and things like that, growing in harmony with our body. So the store that we put on this it's too much. It's too much.
Well, it's true that they say that there's more bacteria in our gut microbiome than there is cells in our body.
Yeah.
So we are more animal than human. It's true. It's totally true. And I do not understand body dysmorphia, because I suffered from it after taking steroids. Because what had happened is once you took steroids, you got big very, very quickly, and it changed your mind. And then you had to cycle off them, because your body would shut down to them. Your body would realise it's been tricked and it shuts down.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to come off them. And the longer you came off them, the better for the next time you went on them. It's a never-ending cycle. And when you came off them, I used to look in the mirror and I think, look at Steve. I'm 6'1", I'm lean build. So when I put a stone on, it looks a lot. But when I lose a stone, it looks a lot again. So I was looking in the mirror and thinking, look at you're so skinny now. And I wasn't. I was like 4 stone heavier than when I started bodybuilding. It was like, and it's not. It's a wild one. I've got a bit of a question here. I've been talking to a guy and he allows his cats outside in his neighbourhood. It seems his cats are older now, so no problem. But his ex lost a 1-year-old cat. 1-year-old cat. Someone poisoned her. She was a black cat. I don't know what else to say other than keep cats indoors to protect them. Well, I'm sorry. Silence is violence, but can you keep a cat inside? Is that not cruelty?
No,
the cats are free roamers, and
look, they are, but they sleep 18 hours a day. And as a cat owner, I'm not a cat owner. Sorry. As someone who shares her home with the cat, No, it's not cruel to keep them inside. Because if you're feeding them, they don't need to go and kill. They don't need to hunt. And they do a lot of damage to the native birds. So I've got a rescue Bengal, and he would go out and destroy if I was to let him outside. So he does, and not to mention the fact that you've got assholes who hate cats and will run over them or poison them or take them and use them for dog baiting. And
how can you keep a cat indoors?
You just got to keep them occupied. You just got to keep them occupied. You just got to give them lots of toys, and they've just got to have lots of places where they can climb and run and play, and they'll be perfectly content to stay inside.
Well, if that's what you wish to do, but I find that a little bit disturbing, really. I mean,
there's a lot of places in Australia where you're not allowed to let your cat out. If you want to have cats, you're not allowed to let them outside. Yeah.
So what?
I mean, you can let them in your garden, but they must come in overnight, because that's when they'll do the most damage. And I mean, I can understand it, because they're not a native. Let's face it, domesticated cats are not a native species, and they're going out and they're killing lizards and birds, and and the argument, of course, is if you're feeding them, then they're hunting for fun.
Yeah.
So, have you ever watched a cat torment a mouse or a lizard or something? I've seen
to
be on the receiving end. I can assure you, I'd hate to be on the receiving end of that. So
I think it's down to the owner then, really, isn't it? I mean, if you can keep your cat occupied when you're at home, then fair enough. But if you can't and you just shut them in, I don't think that's a real good thing. So
no, of course not. No.
Yeah. So are both your parents still alive, Michelle?
Yes, they are. Well, sorry. No, my mother's not. The woman who gave birth to me, but she's, as far as I'm concerned, she's not my mum, but she died 20-odd years ago of a drug overdose. Yes, she was a nurse, and she was addicted to prescription drugs. But my mum and dad, stepmum, yes, they are both alive. Dad's 83 and mum is 78.
Oh, it's similar. My dad's 85, and I think my mum's 9 years younger, so she's 74, 76, something like that, yeah. And how's the health? I mean, you were supposed to come on last Saturday, weren't you? But you had a bit of a issue. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, I think it was, what was it, the 15th of December, I got a phone call from the hospital, because I have power of attorney for both of them. So instead of ringing Dad, they actually rang me, which was a real shock, to say that my mum had been rushed to hospital with sepsis. And then I think it was the day after, I packed everything up, because they didn't think she was going to make it through the night. And because they'd put her in an induced coma, and she had, the infection was extremely bad. So I went up there, and then I was supposed to come back on about the 23rd, 24th of December, but the lockdown, we got locked out, so I wasn't allowed to come back in without a permit. And then a couple of days after that, my father had a heart attack. So it was one of those, a blessing in disguise, I think. The stress of mum being in hospital and nearly dying caused Dad to have it was only a mild heart attack. We went for a walk. Dad said, come on, let's go for a walk. And we went for a walk, and we got 10 minutes down the road. And my dad is the kind of person that can walk, even at 83, he can walk 10 Ks, right? He's always been an active, healthy person. And he said to me, I've got a bit of pain in my chest. And I said to him, do you want to go back home? And he goes, no, it's probably just indigestion. And we went for another bit further. And then he said to me, still got the pain. And of course, by this stage, I'm starting to get a bit worried. So I sat him down on the park bench, and I took his pulse, and I said, look, your pulse is, your heart's racing. I said, let's sit for 5 minutes. Let's check your pulse again in 5 minutes and see whether or not your resting heart rate, if you've come back down. Yeah. And we'll just see whether or not your heart's racing because you've just been doing cardio, or if there's a problem. After 5 minutes, I took his pulse again, and it hadn't. His heart rate had not reduced. And I said, that's it. We've got to call an ambulance. So I called an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital and said, yes, it was a very mild heart attack, and they wanted to do an angiogram couple of days later, they did the angiogram and put a stent in his heart because they discovered a very small, it was only a very, only one blockage in one of the arteries. So it wasn't even a big one. It was just, enough to cause. But the thing is, he's got type 2 diabetes and he's got high cholesterol. And I have been telling him now for years to be on plant-based. And I've said to him, you could, because obviously doctors are they're so great at prescribing statins, which pisses me off no end, because all you've got to do with a type 2 diabetic is change them to a whole food plant-based diet. And within 2 weeks, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. And you may have to be careful for the rest of your life, but it's still better than taking drugs and continuing the said behavior. As I call it, putting a Band-Aid over the check engine light. It's a fucking stupid thing to do. Right?
Is your dad plant-based now? Silence his violence ass.
Yes. Well, they're always plant-based when I'm around. But I think now that this has happened, because I basically, I said to them, I can't do this again. I can't have both of you on the edge of death. I'm an only child, so let's not be doing this. All right, let's not be doing this to me. And I said, I need you to promise me that you're not going to lapse, because they were down with me. They came down last year. At the beginning of COVID, actually, and they were with me for 4 months, and they were strictly plant-based the whole time, right? The whole time, because I wouldn't allow meat and dairy in the house, full stop. It was like, if you want to eat it, you go out. I don't care what you do when you go out, but you're not having it in my house. So they were strictly plant-based. And even Mum commented how much better she felt and how much weight because she'd lost weight, her skin was clearer, her hair was stronger, all of the wonderful things that come from being on a plant-based diet. But they would just sneak in, and Dad would have scrambled eggs on toast. And I said to him, you've only got to have 1 egg a week when you've got diabetes, and you increase your risk of a heart attack by 26%. It's not worth it. 1 in 4 more of a chance of having a heart attack just by having 1 egg in a week. 1. And he's like, no, but eggs are good for you. And I was like, how the fuck can eggs be good for you? They have the highest amount of cholesterol of any food source that you could possibly eat. They're not good for you. I said, you've just been convinced that they're good for you. I said, just like the Surgeon General used to tell you that smoking was good for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a clever marketing ploy in order to get you to buy a product that they know isn't healthy.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. You do feel like you're banging your head against the wall. I mean, like, I had a conversation with my dad, and it's on video. It's on one of my videos. And he's like, I go every week. I go and buy him plant-based milk. So I buy him the one specially made for coffee and tea, the Ultra Barista. I don't know whether you've got it in us. He can basically pour it straight into. Sorry.
What's up, baby?
Sorry.
How loud this is.
Oh no, baby, because I'm doing this. You can show me after I've finished, okay? I promise. All right. I love you. In a minute. All right. Go see mummy. Good boy. Love you. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, my old man, and then I said, so what have you been doing, Dad? And he says, I've been doing fine. He said, I've just been having cheese every now and again. And I'm like, Dad, Dad, how come you stop smoking? And he says, because it gives you cancer. I said, well, why don't you just have 1 or 2 fags a month like you with your cheese? And he says, why would I do that? I said, well, why are you having fucking cheese then, you idiot? It's the same thing. There's no difference. I mean, I said, you might as well just...
I guess the hope is that one day there will be warnings about food, just like there's warnings about alcohol and cigarettes. But we're not there at this point.
There's got to be. 75% of the population of this planet are dairy intolerant. It's fucking ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
How can we possibly be designed to drink a substance that's designed to make something this big grow to this big in such a short period of time and think that it's not going to have some sort of adverse effect? I mean, the human body is this incredible machine that you can treat like shit for so long, but then all of a sudden, when stuff goes bad, it all seems to go bad like you get type 2 diabetes, you get cholesterol, you have heart attacks, you have strokes, you get cancer, and boom, 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 boom. And whereas you look at the likes of Dr. Ecclestone and Dr. Campbell from Forks Over Knives, for example, who learnt years and years and years ago that this was not a great idea and adopted these whole food plant-based diets, and they're in their, their late 90s and they look like they're in their 70s.
Yeah.
And they don't have those issues.
It is, and this is the thing. But the trouble is with the health side of things is it's just so clever. They use the same playbook as cigarettes to market the meat, dairy, and eggs to us all.
Well, it's the same company, apparently.
Clever.
It's the same. It's the very same company. It's the very same advertising companies that they use.
The strategy they call the strategy used is called a playbook, and they used exactly the same playbook.
Yep. Exactly. And what they do with men is they attack a man's ego, right? That you see it. Eat meat makes you manly.
Man do barbecue.
And when I say to people, when you were a kid, when you were a little kid, did your parents ever tell you to sit down and eat your meat? No, they fucking didn't. Every child always heard, eat your veggies, you'll grow big and strong if you eat your veggies. No one was ever told, don't eat your veggies, just eat your meat. No one was ever told that, right? We'd all get in trouble for not eating. Well, I've always been a vegetable lover, so it was easy for me. But, that's what we were always told. And for some reason, then, you turn on the TV and the TV has flipped that script, basically flipped it. And tried to convince you that, that you're going to be more manly if you consume.
Well, you know what's caused that
animal flesh.
You know what's caused that, don't you? It's the advent of the fast food restaurants.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I've always said, Michelle, that when I was young, I knew the names of all the fat kids because there weren't many. There was one in my school.
Yeah.
He's dead now. He's dead, and he was a year older than me. He's dead now. And why? And people say, well, you didn't have much money then. And I said, well, yes, we did. And the sweets were cheaper and they were bigger. So it wasn't sugar. But there were no McDonald's. There weren't even many Indian takeaways in the UK in the 80s. It started becoming to prevalence just at the start of the 80s.
Yeah.
So Indian food. So that was the nearest we get to fast food. The nearest we got to fast food was the Chippy, the fish and chip shop.
Yeah.
And everybody used to go on a Friday. We used to queue on a Friday because everyone used to go. The minute this McDonald's, Burger King appeared on the scene is when the kids started getting fat.
Yeah.
We couldn't go and get a meal for £1, the equivalent of £1 when we were young. You know what I mean? It was impossible. It was impossible.
Yeah. Well, like you said, fish and chips was for us it was once a fortnight, and it was on a Thursday night. Once a fortnight we used to have fish and chips, and I didn't even like it. I've never liked fish anyway, so I used to eat the chips. And I'd struggle to eat maybe 3 or 4 pieces of the mouthfuls of the fish, and that was it. I was done. I mean, I could drizzle it in tartare sauce, and that was the only way I could get it in my mouth. But I didn't like the texture. I didn't like the taste. But it wasn't. We didn't do it because it was cheap, right? It wasn't cheap to go to the fish and chip shop, and that's the reason why you only did it, once a week.
Yeah, it was a treat.
Because it was a treat.
Yeah.
It was giving mum the night off of cooking, basically. That's what it was for. It wasn't, you didn't do it because it was so cheap. But like you say now, my ex that I recently separated from after 18 years, before we met, he would eat McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut every single day, and I mean, he's skinny, but he's going to end up he will drop dead of a heart attack before he reaches 50. Like that.
And that's the thing. I mean, I was always lean and skinny, and I had a very fast metabolism.
Yeah, you can be a skinny fat though, can't you?
I link it to ADHD as well. I could not put weight on. I used to have jam donuts for breakfast. I used to have 5 meals a day. I could eat anything, and I could never put weight on. I got told how healthy I was taking a smoothie to work, then realised I was vegan, and I became a nutrient deficient. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're all dying of protein deficiency over here. And that's another thing, like non-vegans have absolutely no fucking idea what human nutrition actually is or what it actually entails. But it's funny how the moment you mention you're a vegan, they all of a sudden have bachelors. They have a PhD in human nutrition. Like, where do you get this from? And where do you get this? Like, and where the fuck do you get that from your McDonald's, mate? It's like, and they say to me, oh, how could you do that? How could you eat that? And it's like, don't even talk to me about it. Just don't even talk to me about it.
I just want to say a quick hello to Tamsin. Hello, Tamsin. Nice to see you. Do you remember Shawadi Wadi, Michelle?
Who, what?
Shawadi Wadi. Do you remember the band, the 70s band, Shawadi Wadi?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Well, Tamsin is the daughter of the drummer.
Oh, my God. Hello, Tamsin.
She's a beautiful singer as well, Tamsin. She's a great singer. UK Vegan Family, we'll catch up on the rest of the stream later. We're heading over to set up a stream with a kids' offer. So, guys, please go over to UK Vegan Family after. They've got a great chat going on with the vegan offer. I don't know which one it is. I'll be popping over there myself once me and Michelle have finished trying to kill each other. Shawadi what? Wait till you see them. You'll love it. Look for Shawadi Wadi. I'll type it in the comments unless you're taking the mickey and you've never heard of them. That's what they're called. Have a listen. They're great. Absolutely great. So, Michelle, I've got a bit of an issue with you now.
Bring it on, mate. Bring it on.
So, I mean, I'm sort of with you on certain things now. But you were one of the first people that I saw on James Aspey's post when he mentioned the Holocaust. And you were like a bat out of hell. It was ginger fading. You were hammering him left, right, and centre. Let's talk. What the hell's going on? What's wrong with saying Holocaust for animal Holocaust?
All right. See, but you didn't say that. The first thing you just said was, what's wrong with saying Holocaust? Now,
don't start being pedantic now.
Let me ask you a question. All
Go
right.
on.
The first thing, what is the first thing that 90% of people will think when you use the word Holocaust? What's the
Jewish
first thing?
Holocaust.
That's right. That's the first thing that pops into mind. Now, what was the Jewish Holocaust all about? It was about erasing a group of people. It was about exterminating a group of people. It was about a group of people who were treated and believed to be less than vermin, erasing them from existence because they were less than vermin. All right, less than vermin. Animals, as much as what they're going through is absolutely fucking horrific, and I will never say anything but that, the reality is we're not trying to exterminate them. We want more of them. We want to breed more and feed more because as you know, the whole world is all about consuming more and more and more and more. This is a consumption issue, not an erasure issue. So if you are talking to a non-vegan, because you're not preaching to vegans. Us vegans can fight amongst ourselves, and let's face it, we're really fucking good at doing that. Like, that seems to be there's this divide. But when you're actually doing your activism, you are talking to a non-vegan who already suffers from immense cognitive dissonance because they've still got to come to terms with the fact that they have been guilty of participating in an awful industry their entire lives, as we all did, right? So if you then trigger them by mentioning the Holocaust, how do you know that their grandparents didn't escape from Germany? My great-grandfather on my mother's side escaped from Germany because of the Holocaust. Now, I don't identify as Jewish because I only found that out when I was in my 20s. I didn't even realize that was on my mother's side of the family. I didn't even know. But for people who are still, the thing about trauma is it's ingrained in our DNA. Scientists have now shown that you pass that trauma on to your children. It's a generational thing. So if you're suffering from generational trauma, you're also suffering from cognitive dissonance, and then you go and compare what's happening to animals, which is horrific, to what happened to the Jewish people or to the Romanis or any of the other groups of people who were exterminated because of being less than the other perceived humans around them, you run the risk of triggering them. The moment you trigger a person, they don't listen to you anymore. They can't listen to you anymore because that's not how triggers work. A trigger brings up the trauma. It basically, the trauma just sits right here and everything else is just going over here. You could strip naked and masturbate in front of them and they're not even going to see it, right? It doesn't matter what you do because all that's happening is that trigger it becomes the forefront. And as I said, I was 5 years old when I was raped, and I have PTSD, lifelong
I'm sorry to hear that,
PTSD,
Michelle.
right? And that was the first time. When I was 7, I was raped by the babysitter. And when I was 16, I was raped on a camp. All right. So 3 times, 3 strikes, you're out. I cannot read the word, right, without it being a trigger. I can't hear someone say the word without it being a trigger. Now, thanks to getting it under control, thanks to, years of therapy years ago, et cetera, I understand how it triggers me. I understand what it does to me, and I understand how to combat that by, like, if it's on TV, if I see where a person is about to sexually assault another person, I will just get up and walk away. I just get up and walk out of the room so that I don't see it, right? It's I know that's how I have to deal with it, because otherwise I can't even watch the rest of the movie, because all I'm doing for the rest of the time is actually focusing on, even if it's only 30 seconds in that movie, for example, all I'm focusing on is that the fact that there was sexual abuse in whatever it is that I was watching, reading, etc. So I have to walk away, right? So the way I look at it is, if I'm sitting opposite somebody and I compare what goes on to animals to something that they may have gone to, how do you know that that person that you're talking to wasn't raped last week, doesn't have their PTSD under control? Because everybody suffers from PTSD after having something like that happen. I don't care who they are. You can be as strong as you like, you're still going to have some sort of PTSD. How do you know that you're not going to trigger them and they're going to go home and be so caught up in reliving the event that they went through that then they, for example, take their life? You haven't achieved a goal, and it's 3 words. 3 words that you're being asked to remove from the vernacular: Holocaust, slavery, and rape. Just 3 words. If you cannot do activism without those 3 words, then you're not ever going to be able to do activism, full stop. Okay. That's right, dead silence. You've got nothing to say, because there is nothing to say, and that's the point.
I've got a lot to say. Right? So, firstly, I agree with some of what you're saying. Because one person equates to quite a few hundred animals a year. One person equates to the murder of quite a few animals a year. Okay? So, I would not want to be responsible for putting somebody off ever going vegan because of what I've said to them. I wouldn't want that. However, where do we draw the line, Michelle? I mean, I listened to Roger Yates the other week, and it was a bit of an epiphany for me, because the way he put it was only a short video, and the way he put it was, you don't have to use the rape word. He says all you've got to do is describe in intimate detail what farmers do to the animals, and he says, and they will then, in their minds, formulate that word and come out with that word, and that'd be a lot more powerful than actually saying the word, without the risk of hurting somebody, like you said, who may have been a victim of that act. Okay, so I mean, how many people are walking around who've suffered that? And what are the chances of you bumping into them?
Pretty high, actually.
Yeah, it could well be, mate.
You'd be surprised how many women have been sexually assaulted. I mean, that's the sad reality, is that it's ridiculously high, because most women don't report it. So it's to
I've never heard someone say it offends them. I just hear from these, it offends people. Show me.
Well, for a start, you're a man, so no woman, and that wasn't directed at you, Grumpy Vegan. That was directed at I'm Easy Vegan. You're a man. A woman is not going to say to you, that offends me because I've been raped. Do you know how hard it is for a woman to just say those words out loud? I used to shake and go bright red with embarrassment, even thinking about the time that I was raped when I was 5 years old. It took me until I was 50 years old to be able to say, when I was 5 years old, I was raped on the front doorstep of my house without burning up with shame. So for you to even make that comment, well, no one's ever said it to me. Well, of course they're not. Because if somebody's triggered and hurt, again, they cannot talk about it. Not everybody has got their trauma under control to the point where they can just go, bleh, like I just did, and feel comfortable. There's still a part of me that goes, but I let that part go now for the sake of other people who have suffered similar traumas. The reason I say it out loud is to take ownership of it and to let them know that there is no reason for them to have any shame. But you are a man. So unfortunately, you can't have that comment because you'll never understand what it's like to be the weaker sex. Never. You know, the statistical reality is, yeah, of course, men get raped. No one is saying that men don't get raped. So before we go, not all men. The majority of rape happens to women or it happens to children. And that's definitely a 50-50 of whether it's boys or girls. But the reality is nearly every woman I've spoken to has been sexually abused to some extent. Maybe not to the extent that I was, maybe, but still, there's no such thing as a good rape. There's no such thing as that's not as bad. As far as rapes go, that's not that bad. Rape is rape is rape. It's as simple as that. So if you trigger a person, they're not going to tell you that you've triggered them, right? They're going to tell you that they're just not going to say anything to you about it. So to me, yes, rape is rape no matter what species. I agree with you. The point is, we're not talking to each other as vegans. We can sit together as vegans and say it's an animal holocaust. We can sit together as vegans and say that animals are enslaved. And we can sit together as vegans and say that, the cows go into a rape rack and they get forcibly impregnated says exactly the same thing. Forcibly impregnated. Because rape, again, is about a power dynamic against women. Right? When a man rapes a woman, it's not because he's trying to forcibly impregnate her. Whereas when a cow is put in a rape rack, it is with the express desire to get her to procreate so she can keep producing milk. That's not what rape is. And that's why there has to be, I think, to me, if you can't do your activism without using those words, then you're not very good at activism. Because you wouldn't say those words to a little kid.
Grumpy Vegan Grandad, please tell this guest that I want an apology. I was talking about the word Holocaust, not rape. I
want an apology. Wow. That's not how apologies work, mate. You don't get an apology because you demand one.
Rape is not defined by a man overpowering a woman. Maybe we should bring him on.
And you know what? Veganism's not defined by an ethical movement either. If you look at the terminology or the true definition of veganism, it's all about diet. And you and I know if you're vegans, it's not diet. So let's not quibble over an Oxford Dictionary definition of the word. Like,
we knew this would kick up. We knew this would kick up a fuss, didn't we? We knew. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you to a point. I think using certain words in the right context can be very powerful. If you're talking to people and you talk about the amount and say, look, this is very much like an animal holocaust. I don't think that is going to cause a lot of problems, personally. as long as it's used in the right context. I think just shouting it's a Holocaust, I think you're quite correct on that. Like I said, I watched that stream by Roger Yates, and he mentioned to talk about the acts that go on the farms and go into it in detail and let them make their own sort of visions in the mind. Because, like I said to you before, Michelle, when we're reading a book and there's a monster in the book and we use our own imaginations, the monster is far worse than what it would be in reality. Like when we see the horror films and we don't see the monster till the end of the film, and when we do finally see the monster, we think, is that it? Because it was 10 times as bad in our minds.
That's right. Yeah. The mind is a powerful thing.
It's a very, very powerful thing.
And I think, the thing about that, going back to James Aspey, and he's not the only one to do it, but they have taken pictures of the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust, and put them side by side with what's happening to the animals. And that's where the biggest issue is. Because, as I said, those people have a generational trauma. You and I, we all know it's a Holocaust. And we all know that, and again, and someone's mentioned Gary Yurovsky or whatever it is, he was Jewish. So again, it's like black people can use the N-word because they've taken that power back and they've turned it into something of their own and denying us the right to use it. Gary is a Jewish person. If he chooses to use the generational trauma of his people in his activism, then I think, we have to let them have it, right? And again...
Tamsin says, same with slavery. As a black woman who is vegan by diet and lifestyle, I personally feel and see the connection between my ancestors and animals being enslaved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can definitely see that too. I mean, as I said, I can definitely see the reason why people will use those words, because it definitely is. But that's because we're not speciesist, right? We are not speciesist. We do believe that animals deserve the same treatment as fellow humans. But when you're talking to non-vegans, you've got to get them to that point. So the same with anything, the old story, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. They've proven it doesn't work. They've proven that it's not an effective form of activism. And
when you say they've proven, who's proven it?
Well, there's been studies. There's studies on the internet that show that those particular forms of activism don't actually get people on side. Because the moment you make a person angry, they just shut down. They don't listen to you anymore. They stop listening. Just like I'm Easy Vegan, who's disappeared. Oh no, he's still there. Are you there? No, you're not. I can't hear any more of this apology. He said he was there. He said he was going to go, but then he's still here. But you stop listening.
I'm out. It's all right, mate. I mean, if you don't want to just stay in and listen and think about things, and that's fine, mate. I mean, the whole point of having Michelle on was because of your views, and I wanted to hear them. Someone's asking, where are these studies? Absack is saying, where are these studies, Michelle?
Google.
Google them.
Yeah, Google them. You can actually find quite a few articles written on the studies and why they stopped using them. So I mean, and everybody keeps calling out Gary. Yeah, Gary's one person. You make it sound like Gary's converted everybody to veganism. He hasn't.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we wouldn't have to worry about it. The whole world would be vegan by now, because Gary, that was a long time ago.
I mean, to be honest with you, when I'm talking to people, I very rarely go down those lines anyway. It's when you're talking about the ethical thing, just talking about what actually happens and the amounts and how many animals a year get killed, and it's like so many million a minute. And once you start putting them figures to people, they tend to come to their own conclusion anyway. And I haven't compared it a lot. I mean, I have used the word animal holocaust, and I have done videos on it, and I have mentioned this is a massive animal holocaust. I have done that, and I do agree that it's a very powerful word to be used. But I think one-to-one conversations, like you say, maybe it's a think again thing. Maybe it is, because I definitely wouldn't want to put people off or make them unresponsive to the message, because that's just counterproductive.
I can hear him a little bit.
Um,
Hear him a little bit.
I know you can't hear him because I've got headphones in. But
and shame not to open up about their rate.
No, we can
Yeah, maybe they are.
hear him.
Feel for the young white male there. So yeah.
wow. See, like seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? You're going to attack my grandson? That's just that's so fucking childish, dude. Childish.
Unless he was talking about me, I don't know. Let's have a look. Generational trauma. When that happened, the world population was less than 3 billion. We are at 7.8 billion, and the only generation that happened is
I'll talk to you in a minute.
Remembrance is the only thing keeping it now. That's from Tree Vegan.
Well, the studies about generational trauma, we are still passing on generational trauma to our offspring, and that's today. And you know, if you take slavery, for example, that was only a couple of generations ago. And especially if you count things like Jim Crow, that was a generation ago. So I don't know how you can say that generational trauma was happened a long time ago. It's still happening.
I think he was talking about me. Yeah, I think he was talking about me, Michelle. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right then.
Yeah, because I'm just the poor white guy sat here, but yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, and it is something that everybody should think about. Definitely. I mean, let's have a look. Oh, here we go. I wasn't attacking your job. I was feeling sorry for any white male in your life. So let's move on. So what's for the future? Because I know you're a big anti-Trump, so I think you'll be happy because I've just seen this pop up. Fuck Biden, by the way, he supported Jim Crow laws and putting black people in jail. Look up Crime Bill of 1994. Yeah. We're getting very political now.
Oh, look, I will have to agree with that statement. Biden was never a great choice, but for fuck's sake, anyone was better than Trump.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'll definitely agree with you on that one.
Trump had to go. It's as simple as that, And I mean, you've only got to look at the amount of violence that man has incited in the last 4 years. Not saying that the racists weren't there, but they've certainly felt free to rear their ugly heads and be completely honest about, about their racism, which is just, I can't get my head around that.
I'm Easy Vegan. The link's there to join if you want to come on and chat to Michelle. It's there, mate. If you want to come on.
I'm old. What does subbing to me mean? I don't get what that means. What does that
mean? You won't click on his channel and follow him. You won't subscribe to his channel.
Oh, why wouldn't I?
Where is just more men not speaking out? Oh, right, okay. They're talking to someone else there. That's a conversation that's going on inside.
Okay. Righto. I was going to say, I didn't mention any studies about rape.
Is there anything else you want to tell us? Oh,
no.
No chance. He's bottled it. Come on. She won't bite you. What's up with you? It's only debate. We're only talking, for God's sake.
Aren't we mature adults here? That's the whole thing, isn't it? We can have a conversation about things and not necessarily agree on them. I mean, the fact is, I already think you're an awesome dude because you're vegan. right? It's as simple as that. I think it's brilliant that you've already taken the first step to being the most awesome thing that you can be on the planet, which is vegan. Because if you are a vegan, you care about animal rights, you care about human rights, you care about the environment, you care about future generations. So, you know, just because you and I have a difference of opinion about terminology, like, come on, dude, really, come on.
He's a nice guy, actually, Aaron. You'd like him.
I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but you know, he's just going to get upset with me because I disagree with one thing.
Excellent stream today. We can have intelligent discussions and still fight together for the animal. Yeah, of course we do. We need to talk about these things.
That's it. We've got to stop all this infighting within the vegan movement, because it is an ethos about doing the least amount of harm. Right, the least amount of harm. And that means that we should be uplifting each other and supporting each other, so that when we have those difficult conversations with non-vegans, we can come back to those of us that are already on our team and go, dude, I just had this happen. And then that person can just give you that moral support that you need, because we're already living it together.
Paula Dean's butt butter. I love that name. Yes.
That's awesome.
We didn't have to disagree. You jumped on something I wasn't even talking about, but hey. Oh well, whatever.
I'm totally confused about what I jumped on that you weren't even talking about. That's what I'm confused about.
I think it might be the white thing, the white male thing. I don't know. I have no idea. I wish you'd just come on and just talk.
Well, you know, unfortunately, as I said, if you weren't talking about my grandson, then I apologize for that. But you can understand me jumping to that conclusion, because you're saying you feel sorry for white men in my life, and you feel sorry for this and that and that. And it's just like, dude, you don't even really know me. So in 1 hour, you've made an informed decision about who I am as a person. Why? I couldn't be bothered making an informed decision about you, because you won't even give me the chance to get to know you, except for typing a few words on a screen, which doesn't make you, to me, that's not intelligent. That makes you a coward. You won't actually come and talk to me. You won't get to know me. You're just going to choose to, because I say one thing.
Right, you see, the problem is, and you know this, you do live streams, Aaron, is the chat gets lost. I was talking about Holocaust, and you started going about rape. Right. It's okay to disagree, everyone. We need a group hug.
Yes, I'll give you a hug. I'm easy. I'll give you a hug. And trust me, I may be a mouthy bitch, but I do give good hugs.
Go and subscribe to his channel. Make him happy. Make him happy. He needs more subscribers. He's a good lad. Right, well, listen, I think we'll start wrapping it up. Is there any questions for Michelle? Oh, hang on. Easy and Ginger need to do a live stream face-to-face. How about that? How about going on Aaron's channel?
I'd love to.
Right, Easy Vegan. There you go. The challenge is set. Michelle is quite happy to go on your channel, and you can have this conversation, and we can see what comes out of it. That'll be really interesting. So what do you say, mate? Is it a yes or is it a no? Are you answering? Are you going to have Michelle on and you're going to have the conversation? I want to see that, actually. I want to see that. Right, well, listen, Michelle, it's been great having you on. It's been nice having a chat with someone who's the same age. When was you born? What month were you born?
December.
Oh, I'm older than you. No!
You old fart, you. Oh, God.
July.
I'm the young girl in the room.
July, my God.
Yeah, it's 4 days before Christmas.
I will definitely be following Michelle on Instagram. She's very interesting.
Oh, thank you, Meadow. Mwah, mwah.
Survey says, fight!
I'm not. See, the thing is, I'm not interested in fighting with anybody, honestly. It's too much effort to fight with people. I'd rather put my effort into fighting for the animals. I'd rather put my effort into fighting non-vegans into becoming vegan, or, you know, sexists into becoming feminists, or racists into becoming anti-racist. That's where I'd rather put my energy.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Right. Let me just bring this up now. So I'm just putting in the comments now. Grumps United, UK Vegan Families live chat with the author. So if you guys want to have a look at that, it's going to be a very interesting chat. I think it started now. Me and you, Michelle, I think we're done here. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really interesting. I think I might have another conversation with you soon.
I'd love that.
Maybe I'm Easy Vegan will have you on his channel when he cools down a bit.
Kisses, I'm Easy Vegan.
So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for giving up some of your valuable time to come and have a chat with me early in the morning, tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. So thank you for that. Love seeing your
Thank you so much for having me.
Your beautiful little grandson there. Lovely.
Yeah, he's adorable.
And I want to thank all you guys for coming on, supporting the stream, and joining in with the conversation. So, save the animals, save the planet, save yourself, go vegan.
Absolutely.